We're going to take the with statement here and we're going to create a recursive query out of this so that we not only getting 2 levels. So right now this pulls those original sales orders, and this pulls the information about back orders in the first level below the original sales orders. But I want to get back orders of back orders and back orders of back orders of back orders. So I want to get all the different levels we could potentially have. So we're going to have to create a recursive query for that. So we just start with adding the keyword recursive, and then I'm going to call this back orders, and then I'm going to define that as being all these things, but I need to remove the names, and then I'm going to have some extra parentheses here I don't need, and instead of having these two as separate temporary views, I'm going to union them together, and then let's say I need to close off my recursive, and then I actually need to call the back orders down here, and I can still order by here. And then instead of referring to originals here, we don't have that anymore. I'm going to refer to back orders, and that creates that recursion. So let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. Alright, so I'm getting quite a bit of rows here, and that looks about right. So here, for example, I have order ID 1, and that was back order by order 45. So order 45, let's see if we can find information about that. So here I have 45, and 45 was not back ordered again, at least, if we find any other ones here. I believe these are all, yeah, I don't think this is back order. But there are a few that have even more levels, and these should have found those. So let's go ahead and add those 2 other variables, and then we can more easily find those ones that have many levels. And those 2 other variables was the whole list of prior orders that have resulted in this back order, plus another variable that indicates the depth of how many levels into the recursion have we done. And this is almost identical to what we did earlier with the manager analysis. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new variable here, and it's going to be an array variable, and I'm going to store integers in it, and I'm going to call this the back order list. I'm also going to create a variable that I assign a 0 to, and that one is going to be called depth. Okay, I then also need to match, since I'm doing a union, I need to match the number of columns here with the number of columns here. So I'm going to go ahead and add back order list and depth. For depth, I need to do 1 plus depth, and I can say as depth, but I don't need to because I'm going to take the variable names from up here when I do the union. In the back order list, I'm supposed to concatenate order IDs to this of the prior orders. So let's see here. Back orders has the prior order. So when I run this the first time, this is the originals, and then the originals get passed into here. So this is kind of the level above, and then this is going to be the information for the back order itself. When I iterate around and come back here, now this is going to contain the result set from this select statement, and this is going to be pulling new information about the back orders of that result set. So where I have the prior order ID, which is the one I want to keep track of in the back order list, that's from A. So I'm going to go ahead and say A, and then order ID, and then concatenating that together, and then let's go ahead and run it. So now we have a back order list and depth. Most of these are the originals. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to add a where statement just so we can see the data a little bit better. I'm going to say where the depth is more than 1. Then we'll run it again. And now we can see here that we have order ID 270, and previous order IDs was 235. That was one that 270 is a back order for, and 235 was a back order of 210. And notice here importantly too that 270 does not have any back orders, but there are some in here. For example, this one for order ID 4582 has a back order 8343. So if we go to 8343, what you're going to see is you're going to see these 2 values and then 4582 added in front of it. And there it is. So we actually, now the next thing we want to do is we want to get rid of not this one, because this is the final one. We know that because there is no back order IDs underneath it, meaning there is no back order ID number here. However, we do want to get rid of this one because that's in the middle of the chain. It's not at the bottom of the chain. Well, luckily that's kind of an easy fix. We just need to say back order ID is null. So I'm going to say and back order ID is null. And I don't need to say where this is coming from because I only have one table here, one stacked table. So I don't need to define that that comes from A or something. All right, if we run it now then, notice I have 242 rows here. Then I'll run it again. Now I have 238 rows. So most of those were at the lowest level already, but 4 of them were not. So there were 4, I guess, that had depth of 3 or more. So let's check that actually. Let's change this to 2. Yeah, and we have 4 rows that had depth of 3, I guess. That's the deepest we go.